Toyota has just revealed that it's going to have 5 new electric cars coming to the European car market and the North American car market before 2026. Now, we also know what happened with the BZ4X and the Solterra twins. It hasn't really gone well for Toyota, and they're saying they might scrap the platform and start with a new one. That's going to take billions of dollars of investment. And now, Toyota have just revealed their updated debt. They're still the most indebted company in the world, period. Let's have a look at the numbers. Hello, my friends. I'm the Electric Viking. My name's Sam Evans, and I'm coming to you from Melbourne in Australia. It is 6:20 a.m. on a beautiful day here. Summer in Australia. Summer here in Melbourne, Australia. You wouldn't have thought it was summer. I mean, the temperature has been only about 20 degrees this week. It's been raining, and you know what? We're still so lucky, aren't we, to live on planet Earth? And in the greatest time in history to ever be alive. There's so many car manufacturers now making compelling, impressive electric cars that so many people want to own and have pre-ordered. I mean, there's literally millions of pre-orders for electric cars all over the world. I mean, many millions if you add them all up together. But not a lot for Toyota electric cars. Key reason, they've been very reluctant to dip their toes in the water. Now, the funny thing is, they have made electric cars. I mean, many years ago, they did have the RAV4 electric car. It wasn't all that compelling. No one really bought it, to be honest. Toyota said, nah, no one wants EVs. And they sold their investment into Tesla and decided to focus on hybrids, which is what they did. And they tried very hard to convince the world that they don't want EVs. They only want Toyota's internal combustion engine-based vehicles, some of which are hybrids, some of which are plug-in hybrids, and some of which are just gasoline-powered vehicles made in the 1970s and slightly modified to be eligible to be still sold today. Seriously. You can actually buy Toyota pickup trucks without air conditioning, without electric windows. They have wind-up windows. In fact, without any of the features that we just take for granted in pretty much every car on the car market. Toyota are one of those car companies that, yeah, some of their cars are very reliable because they've been making the exact same car for decades. However, they need to change. They now know it. In fact, people are saying, Toyota, we want electric cars. Stop with the propaganda. Stop with the marketing. Stop with trying to convince countries themselves, individuals and countries themselves, that no one wants EVs, because we do. Have you actually heard the story that apparently in Japan, Toyota has taken out a marketing campaign for children in schools, in primary schools, to get them to realize that EVs are not the future? I find that a bit strange. Well, Toyota seems to have changed their mind. They're now planning to invest well over $15 billion worldwide over the next few years to electrify, which will, of course, increase their debt position. Right now, Toyota has actually decreased its debt significantly. This time last year, Toyota had $223 billion in debt. Before that, $232 billion. Now things are looking much better at the company. They've only got $190 billion in debt, but that's still the highest debt of any corporation in the world, period. And the latest data from stockapps.com reveals that Toyota is, the most indebted company in the world, the most indebted car company, and the company second to Toyota in the world, period, is actually Volkswagen. Now, of course, it's normal for big companies to have big debts. Toyota says it's totally fine because they have hundreds of billions of dollars in assets. Is that true? Do you believe that? Well, if you're a Toyota fan, I'm sure you do. If you're not a Toyota fan, or if you're someone who's a bit more realistic, you probably realize that a factory building internal combustion engine vehicles is not worth as much as Toyota says it is. Definitely not worth as much as Toyota says it is, especially when people no longer want gasoline-powered vehicles anymore, which won't take long. I'd say about 5 years before people just start saying, nah, don't want that old junk anymore. Nah, no thanks. No. I can have a new product for the same price. Nah, I'll go for the new product. So that's what's going to happen. And then Toyota's $220 billion in assets will be written down massively. What do you think that's really going to be worth in 5 years' time, those $220 billion in so-called assets? Well, I'm going to tell you what it's going to be worth. Less than $100 billion. You've got an idea. You can see what those companies, those factories, those existing assets are worth when you look at the fire sales that have gone on. Look at the fire sale when General Motors sold, or General Motors and Toyota sold their factory in Fremont to Tesla for a fraction of the cost that it was to build it. What about Stellantis? They just closed their gasoline-powered vehicle manufacturing, their huge plant in the United States. They didn't actually even try to change it to EV production. They just closed it. They decided it was basically worth nothing. I mean, I don't think it's worth nothing. It still has a land value. The real estate itself is obviously worth something. As long as you own the real estate, that's a different question. We have to go through Toyota's books and Toyota's position to actually find out really what they own. A lot of it could be land value only. However, these debts become problematic for Toyota when they exceed Toyota's assets. That won't take long. Such a scenario puts a company at a higher risk of bankruptcy if it were to encounter a financial obstacle or a reduction in its profits. Let's say Toyota's sales go down by 50% within the next 5 to 10 years, which is almost a certainty, considering they don't make the product that the market wants and have admitted they don't have anything on the horizon. Then that could mean they simply won't be able to service their existing debts. And therefore, their debt interest rates will drastically increase. That's what happens when you don't sell a product the market wants. Banks are aware of that. Banks are not stupid. They raise your interest rates, they raise your risk profile, your debt ratio changes, and all of a sudden, it's very hard to pay back that money that you owe. Now, Toyota remains at risk as well from the volatility of interest rates, which have increased significantly over the past year. And although many Toyota fans say its $224 billion in assets is signs of a healthy company, well, for all the reasons I've just listed, I would argue otherwise. Toyota doesn't make any compelling electric cars whatsoever. In fact, if you see my video on why the BZ4X was truly recalled, then I'm going to contend that there's been some significant issues with that car that Toyota have lied about. It wasn't simply a matter of them not being able to make the bolts stay on the wheels. That's not a story I don't think anyone bought. Check out that video. I'll put a link in the description below. The other thing worth considering is the many supply chain problems that come with new vehicles, in particular, new electric cars. Obviously, Toyota doesn't really have experience producing fully electric vehicles, which are very, very different to hybrids or internal combustion engine models. If they weren't different, well, we wouldn't see Tesla and BYD making around 70% of the world's electric car production. I mean, basically companies like Volkswagen would have simply ramped production within the space of a year and be one of the leaders or be the leader. However, it hasn't happened. And Toyota has some challenges to overcome. Those include the high voltage cables of the RAV4 hybrids and the Prime, which have basically given their plug-in hybrid vehicles a pretty bad name in many countries around the world. I mean, $5,000 to simply replace a cable is not going to fly for a lot of customers. Then there's, of course, the recall for the BZ4X and the Solterra, and even the reviews they've gotten, especially reviews saying the range of those vehicles is nowhere near what Toyota claims. Realistically, if you put all this together, you'll be aware and realize Toyota are actually in a very precarious position right now. The list of the 8 most indebted companies, according to lastcarnews.net, of 2022 includes only 3 automakers. Toyota is in first place, Volkswagen is in second place, and Mercedes-Benz is in 6th place. However, latest carnews.net says that if the financial portrait of Mercedes-Benz seems, all in all, to be in relatively good shape, the situation is not so good for Volkswagen. Not far behind Toyota, Volkswagen is the second most indebted company in the world. Not just automaker, but company in the world, with a total debt of more than $180 billion. Volkswagen's deficit stems from 2 places: long-term debts caused by the diesel engine scandals, and also a massive investment in electrification, which will continue. They've only invested a small percentage of what they plan to invest in EVs. However, unlike Toyota, which still seems to be adapting very badly to electrification, with, well, no real idea what it's going to do in the future. It's changing its plans every second week. Volkswagen, though, is in a better position thanks to its family of ID vehicles, which is already registering pretty impressive sales figures in Europe, despite a significant lack of inventory. And they've got hundreds of thousands of orders for those cars in spite of reviews saying there's pretty significant issues with the software in them. Clearly, if a bear was chasing Toyota and Volkswagen in the forest, it's going to eat Toyota first, but it might actually eat Volkswagen second. There's some others at the front of the pack leading that race. They don't look likely to be eaten by any bears anytime soon. I think it's pretty clear who they are. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Thank you for watching, my friends, and have a great day. Bye-bye.